Salvete, and welcome back to our overview of Chapter 4 from Wheelock's Latin Grammar. In this chapter, we're going to look at second declension neuter nouns and adjectives, plus the verb to be. So let's go ahead and get started. Second declension neuter nouns follow the same rule as before, base plus endings. We'll notice that second declension neuter nouns share many of the same endings as the masculine second declension. The differences are in the nominative, accusative, and vocative, both in the singular and plural. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these endings. So the good news is most of the endings are very much similar to what we saw with the masculines. The nominative singular is different, ending in um. Genitive is in I. Dative is o. Accusative um. Ablative long o. And vocative um. Then we go to the plural. Nominative plural is an a. Genitive plural ORUM, dative plural IS, accusative plural A, ablative plural IS, and vocative plural A. So we notice the main differences are the nominative, accusative, and vocative, both singular and plural. So just like we've done before, we need to find the base by dropping the ending from the genitive. We'll add the case endings to the base. So our example sentence, donum, doni, Latin for gift, we drop the I and we have the base don. So to that we'll just add our endings like we've done before. Nominative singular donum, gift, genitive doni of the gift, dative singular dono, to or for the gift, accusative singular donum, the gift, ablative singular dono, by, with, or from the gift, and vocative singular donum, o gift. Then we go to the plural, nominative dona, gifts, genitive donorum, of the gifts, dative donis, to or for the gifts, accusative plural dona, the gifts, ablative plural donis, by, with, or from the gifts, and vocative plural dona, o gifts. So that was the nouns. Second declension neuter adjectives have exactly the same endings. Second declension neuter adjectives have the same endings as second declension neuter nouns. The adjectives always agree, like we've said before, with the nouns they modify in number, gender, and case. So now we know how to form the masculine, feminine, and neuter forms of the adjectives. So we can go ahead and build our complete paradigm for first, second declension adjectives. So here we have just the singular forms, and again you can see all 6 cases plus masculine, feminine, and neuter. And usually the way we read these is we read them across in rows. So we'll read the nominative masculine, then the feminine, then the neuter, then go to the genitive. So as you build your charts and write them down, whatever works for you. But we'll go ahead and go through it that way in a horizontal fashion. So nominative, magnus, magna, magnum, genitive, magni, 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 dative, magno, magni, magno, accusative, magnum, 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 ablative singular, magno, magna, magno, and then the vocative, magne, magna, magnum. So now we go to the plural forms, and we'll do them the same way. We'll read across the rows horizontally. Nominative, magni, magni, magna, genitive, magnorum, magnarum, magnorum, dative, magnis, 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 accusative plural, magnos, magnas, magna, and then ablative, magnis, 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 and finally the vocative, magni, magni, magna. So it is a mouthful, but we'll have all the endings in one place, and it's really a good way to memorize the endings for all of the nouns, as well as the adjectives. The next thing we'll look at is the verb to be. Sum in Latin. Just like in English, the verb to be is irregular. Usually these words that are very common in almost every language, the more common the word, the more irregular it is. So just like in English, in Latin it has irregular forms. The entire form of the verb is sum esse fui futurum. So there we have the infinitive esse. Unlike what we've done before, we don't do anything to the infinitive form and add endings to it. Really the best way to learn this is just to memorize the forms. So we'll go through these really quick. First person singular, sum, I am. Second singular, s, you are. Third singular, est, he, she, or it is. Then we go to the plural, sumus, we are. Estis, you all are. And then third plural, sunt, they are. And from our chart, we can even see the irregular forms in English, am, are, is. So again, the best way to learn this is simply just to memorize it. Something to keep in mind about the verb to be, it's actually an intransitive verb, and it cannot take a direct object. It's the same in English, we just don't see it because we lack case endings in English. The verb to be acts like a linking verb or a linking mechanism. Think of it as an equal sign. In Latin, instead of having a direct object, and in English also, we have a predicate. And the predicate is always in the nominative case. So let's look at a few examples. So first we'll look at an example of a predicate nominative. So we have the sentence, Virgilius est poeta. Virgil is a poet. So in this case, poeta is the predicate nominative. So it is modifying Virgil, tells us a little bit more about Virgil, and est is functioning more like an equal sign. Next we have a predicate adjective, Virgilius est magnus. So it tells us a little bit more about Virgil. Virgil is great. So again, it's in the nominative case and it is modifying Virgil. So both appear in the nominative, not in the accusative. So in English, while they look like direct objects, they're actually predicates. Another thing we can do with adjectives is called a substantive adjective. The Romans sometimes used an adjective in place of a noun, just like we do in English. So a good example would be the meek shall inherit the earth. So in that case, meek is a substantive adjective. We mean the meek people, but the meaning is clear without having to put the noun in place. But sometimes when you translate from Latin into English, we can supply a noun like man or men, woman or women, thing or things to make it sound better. So we can leave it off or we can add it if it helps clarify. So here are some examples of substantive adjectives. We have the sentence, bonas saepe laudant. They often praise the good women. Women is implied from the feminine plural ending as. So if I said bonos, we would say they often praise the good men. Our next sentence, pueri mala non amant. The boys do not love bad things. So again, if we change the mala to malas, we would change the meaning of the sentence. It would be translated as, the boys do not love the bad girls. So just a few examples. Another thing to notice before we wrapped up today, greetings. In Latin, we use the verb salveo salvere, to be well, as a greeting. So in Latin, we would use that word to say hello. In Latin, we use the imperative form as a greeting. So we actually give a command whenever we greet somebody. So in the singular, if you wanted to say hello to somebody, you would say salve. If it was a group of people, you would say salvete. So again, translated as hello. We use the verb valeo valere as goodbye. So again, we use the imperative. So if we're saying goodbye to one person, we'd say vale. If we're saying goodbye to a group of people, we would say valete. So that wraps it up for Chapter 4. When we get into Chapter 5, we'll look at some different tenses. We'll learn the future and the imperfect. So until I see you again, valete.